Hey folks, Dana here. In my moderately messy garage instead of my incredibly messy shop, back for part 2 of the salmon waterfall cane. Now the plan is I'm going to make up a very, very tiny bit of resin and pour it in here. That little spot right there in that mold is just exactly the right size for the little spinning part of the cane that I'd planned. I'm going to mix up just enough to cover the base and then let that cure, and then tomorrow mix up another tiny little bit with some pigment in it and then paint a series of tiny salmon going around the edge. Probably because it's not very deep, might end up doing 2 or 3 of those and then sticking them all together, and then eventually drill a hole through the center, probably put a little dowel like that mixing stick in it, and then attach a knob to one end so you can spin it with your thumb. At least that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I've got it all mixed up. There's a few bubbles in it, but that won't matter. It'll actually probably help it look more like running water. Let's see how. Yeah, that should do it. Now we'll let that cure and come back tomorrow. Okay, now I'm back in the shop, and just like I did with the previous stick, I'm going to run some super glue down the channel and use my little jar of gravel from the driveway to make it look like a rocky riverbed. So it'll then once that's dry, I'll take the tinted resin that I'm going to make up for that wheel and paint some little teeny tiny salmon swimming down its length. Okay, got the riverbed all graveled. Looks pretty good. A few bigger stones here and there, but that's fine. That's what rivers are like. Now usually on a maple stick I sand it down to the cambium so that it gets that nice red color. But I was thinking I might tint this stick to look like whatever the foliage and grass conditions are when salmon are spawning, which I can't remember off the top of my head if it's spring or fall. I think it's spring. So I'll probably go over it with some green. I got some green dye that came with my resin kit. Mix that up with a little bit of denatured alcohol and just kind of pat it on. I'm thinking that might dye the back green of varying colors. That's kind of the plan anyways. Alright, I'm going to turn it around in the vise and do the pool. Okay, got the pool area done. A few big ones in there I might chip out. They're a little bigger than I wanted. But and then next thing, I'm going to take a piece of plastic when I get the resin ready. Piece of plastic and make a little arc right there so it looks like the water's coming out of that little notch. Probably ought to put a few rocks in there too. But yeah, I'd say she looked pretty darn close to a very, very tiny riverbed. Minus that bit there, of course, but yeah, looks pretty good. A couple spots I might have to touch up a little bit, but next time I do this, I gotta remember to use a bigger jar. It's hard to get my fat fingers in there to grab anything. So like the fox and the grapes. But yeah, it's coming along pretty good. Now right here, I'm going to drill a hole through once the wheel is done, and put that stick through it. Might carve out a little place right there where the little thumb wheel will run, just so it isn't sticking out the side of the stick and get broken off or something. But that's the plan. Well, it's been a couple days, and the resin just does not want to cooperate. I tried it a couple times, and it just doesn't want to solidify. I don't know if it's the temperature outside. Didn't want to do it in the house because I guess the fumes can be pretty nasty. So did it in the garage, and it might be just too cold out. But got a backup plan. I'm gonna do it with 2-part epoxy instead, and I've got a hot air gun that I'll blow onto it with. But I just tinted the stick with the dye that came in the resin kit, and that looks pretty cool. I think that'll work. Just wait for that to dry, and she should be good. So I'm gonna make a little teeny tiny bear to go into the pool here. And for the fish, instead of the resin, which isn't going to work, going to take they had some little stir sticks in with the resin kit. I'm going to just color a stripe down the length of it green, then red in the middle, then another stripe of green, and then chop it into little tiny pieces. Somewhere I've got a little teeny tiny razor saw that would that'll work. But yeah, so far so good, other than the complete failure of resin. So I'll be back. Okay, got a little tiny chunk off a piece of cherry burl, a little offcut from a previous project, and I've drawn a more or less bear-shaped outline on it. I'll just whittle down to that with the Dremel, and I'll probably just stick him right into that little, or her, into that little pool area just below the waterfall. Yeah, I forgot that my Dremel actually needs electricity to work. I had my cord over in the garage, but I started filing on it a little bit, getting it to the rough outline, then I'll smooth it up with the Dremel. Well, I got the bear done. It came out pretty decent, rather bearish looking anyways. I did end up using the Dremel, but I did a lot of it with files. The vibration was really giving the old carpal tunnel a workout. And it's a good thing I wasn't filming a few minutes ago, because I dropped it, and of course it fell right into the gap on the floor. So, but I managed to find it. So, got the little stick I'm going to make the tiny fish out of, colored. I'll just got a really fine bladed razor saw here, and I'll just slice successive fish down it that I can glue into the river and onto the wheel. And the wheel itself is that two-part epoxy right there, which supposedly dries clear, hopefully. And it's just a medicine bottle cap. I can peel that off afterwards. And let's see, the stick has dried up, and that green on there looks pretty cool, I think. Very Alaska tundra-ish. So that'll look good with a coat of finish on it. So I guess I'll start slicing me some fish. Well, I've got the bear glued in place. Doesn't look bad. Made a little flat spot to glue it to. And I got the piece of plastic in for the waterfall, and had a bottle of thick super glue that I really didn't care for, so I'm using that instead of the epoxy resin. So that'll look pretty decent. I don't know if the sun's going to affect how this focuses, but yeah, doesn't look bad. It's coming anyways, so I'll probably be able to finish it or come close to finishing it tomorrow. I'll let all that glue set up. And I'll be back. Well, I've got that little wheel installed. It didn't dry up or cure up as clear as it's supposed to have done, according to the package. It's more translucent than clear, but it's still kind of tacky to the touch too, so maybe it just hasn't fully cured yet. But I got it in there, and it does move. It's got super glue drying on it right now to hold it in place. And waterfall doesn't look bad, but it's not quite what I had in mind. But that's okay. And the fish, I'm going to have to find a plan C for the little fish that we're going to be running down the stream. Because even with the really fine teeth on this little saw, it just shredded the stick. I'm thinking maybe I have to just go with a thick piece of cardboard, like some white cardboard, and color it up the same way I was going to do. But yeah, I might redo that at some point. That wheel isn't quite what I had hoped for, but proof of concept anyways. So for now, I guess that's almost it. I'm just gonna slap a little finish on it and see how she looks. Well, I've given it a little blast of polyurethane, and it's looking pretty good. Did it a little ways just to see what it was going to look like. I left off right about there. But yeah, that's pretty cool, I think. Like I say, I might redo that wheel at some point. But yeah, I think that's going to work. Obviously wouldn't be a good walking stick, more of a conversation piece or folk art piece, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think that's good for that. Well, I've finished spraying it, and it's hanging up to dry. So that's about it for this one. I think next week I'm going to tackle this stick. It's a piece of yellow birch, a young yellow birch. Hasn't gotten that nice yellow colored back yet, and it won't, unfortunately. But it was growing on a pile of dirt and wood that had been pushed up where someone was logging a few years back, and it originally was probably growing like that and then fell over and started to grow like that and then overbalanced again and was growing like that. And when I collected it, it had fallen again, so that it was sort of like that, because as you can see, it's got a bit of a bow in the shank here. I'm going to take out with my hot air gun, and I'll probably strip the back off the handle because that little bit's missing there. But yeah, it's a nice slim little stick, good for someone with balance issues as opposed to needing it for support. And then that'll be a quick project here, and then I'll probably take you up back in the woods and we'll do a collecting trip. Probably grab those maples that I pointed out last time, the one in the trail there and the one with the wire on it, and see what else there is to find. So I guess that's it for now. If you liked this video, give her a thumbs up. If you didn't, give her a thumbs down. Either way, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.